Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Suarez. I'm the digital marketing manager here at Waste Consultants. And today we are going to talk about how you can save 10% on your waste invoices. You can likely save 10% on your recurring waste and recycling expenses by carefully and critically examining your monthly invoices. In the past 18 years we've been in business, we've found that this is the rate that errors occur on average. So how much has this cost you in the past 5 years, do you think? Today you'll learn why these errors happen, what kinds of errors happen, how they can cost you, and what you can do about it. The more you know about the billing errors, the more equipped you'll be to spot them. Why do waste and recycling invoice errors happen? There are a couple different reasons that these errors occur. Sometimes they happen when service changes occur at your site. We actually find this to be pretty typical because we help a lot of our clients make significant changes in their waste processes at their site. And we'll find sometimes that we request, an additional dumpster or maybe fewer pickups per week. That's actually something we recommend quite a bit. And we'll talk to the hauler representative about it. It seems like it will all be very straightforward. Everyone's on the same page. And then somehow from the hauler rep to the actual driver, there's a miscommunication, and these pickups keep continuing to occur on their previous schedule. And then obviously the site gets invoiced for that. So we find that when these changes happen, we have to be extra cautious and extra vigilant about reviewing those invoices to make sure that our clients aren't being overcharged. So suppose we learn that you need to reduce your dumpster from 8 yards to 6 yards to reduce costs. It's possible that your hauler may continue to charge you for the 8-yard dumpsters after your 6-yard replacement is on site. If you don't carefully check your monthly invoices, you won't find these mistakes. In the wake of other more seemingly urgent tasks, this effort may seem superfluous, but over time, it's likely to help you save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on your waste contract, especially considering how long the terms generally are on most waste contracts. Other times, your hauler will charge you despite certain stipulations in your contract to the contrary. This is always really fun. We recently worked with a client who had about a dozen hotels in the Midwest. They had recently signed a new contract that prohibited regulatory fees on their waste disposal expenses and on those invoices. But we found out that they were continuing to be charged for this fee, and they were paying for it. We documented the exact amount of overcharges and the months that they occurred, and then presented it to the vendor, who couldn't deny, obviously, the charges or what the contract stipulated. So they agreed to provide several $100s in credits to that one location. You can follow this exact process with your hauler. Hold them accountable when their charges are not in accordance with your contract, and you'll protect your bottom line. What kinds of errors can occur on waste and recycling invoices? As in the previous example, you can be charged something that is prohibited by your contract. This often occurs by oversight. We haven't found hauling companies to be the best at communication between departments. Again, sometimes we'll talk to the hauler representative, and somehow whatever we agree on in that conversation doesn't always necessarily get to the driver and the people who are on the ground servicing the location. So it can be a little bit frustrating. The salesperson that draws up your original contract may not make billing aware of all its specifications, as another example. As a result, the billing coordinator may charge you for fees that are not in your contract or not specified by your contract. Typos are another example of errors. They happen to the best of us. All of us have experience writing something and creating typos in the process. But these typos are particularly inconveniencing when they make you overpay. So how can these errors cost you? Typically, waste and invoice errors will cost you about 5% of the amount invoiced. And that's typical. We have had some outlier instances where we had one client, I think it was last year, that ended up being charged 9,000%, a 9,000% increase from one month to another. That was really fun. So waste and recycling invoice errors will actually cost you in two ways. They're of course going to cost you monetarily, but they can also drain other resources like your time and your staff's time. In my experience, resolving a waste service issue is going to take a minimum of 2 communication touches. This is the case for smaller waste issues, like moving a dumpster from one spot to a parking lot to another, or requesting an additional pickup. I will typically make an initial communication to address the issue, and we'll follow up to ensure that the request has been resolved. These two communications can take up to an hour of my time, depending on how long I have to wait on hold and how many people I have to speak to get the issue addressed. Similar problems, like a missed pickup, can usually be resolved with the initial representative I speak with. Some haulers seem reticent to disclose their direct phone numbers, so it can be a little tricky to get in touch with them. If the company is one of the more responsive haulers, only 2 communications via phone or email will be necessary. This is always the best case scenario. Unfortunately, this is not necessarily the case with significant billing errors. Again, like that one I just mentioned. Depending on the hauler and the significance of the error, it can take months to fully resolve. So that instance that I just mentioned, where they were charged an increase of 900%, I think they had something crazy like a $20,000 waste bill for one location. We got in touch with the hauler, and they agreed that yes, this was obviously a mistake. They had moved a decimal place over in the invoice, and that resulted in this crazy charge. So the initial person we talked to agreed with us, but then the next month's invoice came and they were still being overcharged. It wasn't quite that bad. It wasn't quite $20,000, but they were still being charged way above their rate. And so we had to make another few rounds of phone calls, and then another few rounds of phone calls, because again, we just kind of kept hitting resistance, like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. And then it happened again, actually. I think for the third month, there was still continued errors. So for significant errors like that, it can take an extraordinary amount of time and effort and persistence and patience. If your trash hauler overcharges you by several $100s, yes, it's likely going to take more than a few calls to rectify the situation, unfortunately. And this is not necessarily the case for all haulers. We work with some really fabulous haulers. GFL comes to mind. They're one of our best vendors for our clients. And they are extremely responsive when it comes to waste issues or equipment issues. When we fight overcharges on our client's behalf, and when we've done this in the past, it has taken up to 3 months for the billing cycle to reflect the correction. Your staff may not have this kind of time, which is why it's a service that an independent waste auditor can provide. For all of our clients, this is a service we provide. We really take the waste issue management process off of your plate, off of your staff's plate, so that you all can focus on what on higher priorities. So what can you do about invoice mistakes and errors? When it comes to auditing your waste disposal and recycling invoices, there are 2 best practices. First, you and your staff need to carefully review your waste hauler invoices. Look for price hikes and inexplicable fees. We wish this weren't the case. I wish this weren't the case, but a lot of haulers out there are really going to charge you what they can get away with. They're going to charge you sometimes overages that maybe are not actual overages. There might be unexplained price hikes. There are definitely some haulers out there that are going to push the envelope as much as they can. So questions you'll want to ask yourself is, how different is this month's invoice from last month's? Are there any charges that seem high or shouldn't be there? And this is actually going to require that you know what's in your contract and what your contract specifies. When you find these errors, you'll need to call your hauler and ask for a billing credit for the next invoice cycle. Prepare to be persistent. We have found that many haulers are reticent to provide credits to you that may adversely affect them. No one wants to pay out of pocket for a mistake, right? The second, you'll need to be fairly familiar with your waste hauler contract, like I mentioned. Are you allowed to be charged ancillary fees like fuel or regulatory or cost recovery? Does it prohibit price rates or cap them at a certain rate? Does it prohibit price hikes or cap them at a certain rate? Your contract will specify what can and cannot appear on your invoices. Be sure to look for what is there in addition to what isn't. And we have more resources on this on our website and in our blog section especially. If you don't have certain terms included on your contract, you'll get more surprise price hikes, and your contract may automatically renew, all of which can cause overspending. And again, if you want to learn more resources or know more about ways you can save and the saving solutions that are available to you, you can check out our website and our blog at wasteconsultantsinc.net/blog.